Hi, you guys. It's late. I don't have real lighting in here, and I'm using my phone and a little bit of lights, fairy lights, and a candle. And I'm thinking I might just put this down and kind of go into like a podcast because I really just want to talk to you guys about this topic. And I think it's really, really important. And I want to concern myself about whether I'm holding this light or not. So I'm going to put this down. I'm going to put it there. And I'll just like kind of come in and out. There we go. Who cares? Anyway, I want to talk about trauma bond and trauma bonding, like what that means. And basically, I have just been having so many struggles um, with certain people in my life. And when I get to the root of it, I realize it's because we have a trauma bond. And I have changed so much over the years. And I remember when people would say, "You're never going to change, you'll never change, or you'll never stop drinking, you'll never quit smoking, or you'll never, blah, 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 you'll never do this, you'll never do that." And it was really funny because every time someone told me I couldn't do something, I was like, well, thank you, because now I'm going to fucking do it, unless it was something, not good for me, obviously. Um, but yeah, I realized, you know, trying to figure out our own, like really truly loving ourselves, understanding what that means, having that self care. Um, I heard this really powerful thing. I'm going to post it at some point on the Magical Medium. I made a video for it. It's with a little butterfly, and it's this guy. You hear something somebody says, it comes into your orbit, and you're just like, oh my gosh, it's like I totally need to hear that right now. And and he was just talking about how if you don't love yourself, you can't love other people, which we understand that, right? And then he said something that really, really, really resonated with me. And he goes, and if you can't forgive yourself, then you can't forgive other people either. Oh, and that one really struck a chord because I I feel like I finally have gotten to that point where I do forgive myself and I do forgive others. Like I do understand that things aren't easy and that trauma is real, and you know what I mean? Like, so my husband and we are really, really struggling because when we first met, one of the things that bonded us was our trauma, our family trauma. We had very similar stories. His first marriage and my first marriage were so almost identical in terms of like the energy and like what we were dealing with our partners, and it was so 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 interesting and so profound. So that was trauma bond number one. Then like our families, and having addicts for parents and narcissists for parents, and all of these different things. Our families were so similar. We both came from large families. So it was just we just had so many things that really bonded us together. Because misery loves company. So if you want to bitch and complain to somebody, no one better than somebody who's going to go, "Oh yeah, dude, I understand." You know what I mean? Like, because they really do. But that's a comfort zone. What we really need are the people who challenge us to be better. And he and I do that too. We do challenge each other to be better, but we can also easily fall back into patterns of, the shadow and the inner child trauma, and on and on and on and on and on. And so I am finding the more that I am healing, I'm evolving faster. And then it's like I've been noticing the it's like I now that I've recognized how to do it, like now that I have the tools, when something comes, I work through it and I get through it. So many things have happened and transpired over the last 48 hours that an old version of myself would be like a fucking shit show right now. A really old version of myself would be drunk in a bar right now. Absolutely drunk in a bar. Probably, stalking out my next prey of who I'm going to, go home with or take home or whatever. Um, Whatever I was doing at that time. But the most recent me still would have, done something not so great to myself or cried or just like emotionally cut myself all night and watch like sad movies and eat shitty food and smoke a lot of weed and like cry and but today it was different. It was like I felt like I was working through a cry for help, but not just for myself, like for my partner as well. And just like everything that we've been going through. Sorry, this is like one of those secretaries or whatever. It's really dark wood. Um, so I'm kind of like sandwiched in this weird. You know what? I'm like, I just need to move. Sorry. I'm like, there we go. There we go. I'm like, I just needed to like. Sorry, I'm getting my pants straight out. I'm getting my feet straight. Okay. I'm like, well, because I didn't know if I was going to talk to you guys or what was going to happen. But now that I'm here, I'm like, I kind of feel like I know where they want me to go. Also, I'm going to put this here for a second because I really need to drink my water. Oops. Have some water, you guys. Stay hydrated. I don't know about you guys, but this whole Lionsgate portal, in real time, by the way, blessed Lionsgate portal, it's 888. It's August 8th on 2024, and 2024 comes out to the number 8. Also, before I forget, I just was given some pearls that I didn't even think about till she said it, but really important days of manifestation and abundance. I don't want to say abundant. Well, yeah, I guess abundance seeking, but just to draw like good energy to yourself. August 17th and August 26th, because 17 is also the number 8 and 26 is also the number 8. So she said this, she goes, even though the Lionsgate portal closes on the 12th, she said it's like, it kind of like, it's like the end of the energy. It's like when we talk about like Mercury retrograde and we've got the shadow for the 3 weeks before, then we have Mercury retrograde for 3 weeks, and then like the shadow after for 3 weeks. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like, I don't know about you guys, but I was feeling the Lionsgate portal in June. When we started having like all these like, northern lights, but like in all different places of the world and the solar flares and all that, I'm like, you guys, I feel like that's like the universe like setting out flares like we're coming, just hang in there, we're coming. But yeah, there's just been this like super super intense energy and everybody's dealing with it differently. And because I've been like working on my stuff for so long, like, I know a lot of people think I'm narcissistic because they're like, oh my gosh, you're obsessed. And I'm like, well, it's because I know it's my purpose. I mean, I've been having all of these moments lately that, the fact that I was even doubting my purpose is kind of crazy. And as much as I love my music, it could end up just being a hobby. I don't think so, but it could be, like my writing too. Like it could just be, part of the therapy of the teaching for me so that I can come on here and talk to you. It's very interesting what's happening everywhere. And so I'm noticing that the relationships that I'm like fighting so hard to keep are the ones that I'm really ready to let go. And not because I don't want to be in their energy or in their lives, but I don't want to have to. I'm like, I don't want to have to just be alone in my house by myself or be with other people and feel like I'm alone. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be people out there's got to be a community of people out there that, like, it's the same. But for me, it's very rare. And, I remember one time this one friend of mine, and she was like, oh, boo hoo, you just have too many friends. And she's like, it must be nice to be you. Because she was kind of wiry. And, and I was like, yes and no, dude. I'm like, I said, I feel like, because like I'd be hanging out with her and she's like, your phone blows up like every time I'm with you. And I was like, I said something like, oh, I just have a lot of friends, or something like that. and and then I finally had to explain to her, I'm Fun Bobby from Friends. I'm like, I'm that person that if somebody's having a shitty day, or you know what I mean, like I'm that person they want to party with. I'm that person that they want to talk to. I'm the person that if you're going through a rough time, I'm like, are you okay? And I'll hold space for you. But what I started to find over time was that when I needed that, it wasn't reciprocated. Or when I was in the needy baby, greedy baby, my friends were like, oh, and family were like, I can't handle you. I can't handle you. Um, so, it could just be that some of us, it's that trauma bonding, right? Because it's like that friend that you call, or that person that you call, that family member, whoever it is, that boss, whoever it is, that that mentor that helps you through one thing or another. Like they help you because they've had that experience, or they have empathy for you for that experience. However you want to look at it. Um, but I believe the trauma bonding is very, very real, and I think that is why so many people are struggling right now. Um, Sorry, I just looked down and realized, dude, you guys, I get these like, I don't know if you guys can see that right there. Can you? I'm like, look at me. I look like the Crypt Keeper when I get too close because it's like in my face. Um, but I get these weird, they look like bite marks, and I get them all over my body. I swear there's like some weird, like, something, something bites me. It's like feeding off of me. It's kind of creepy. It freaks me out a little bit. Um, but I find them all over my body. And I mean, it's like on either side of my finger, but they're like totally perfect symmetrical. You know what I mean? Like fangs. So I'm like, what the fuck is like feeding off of me? When I'm like, is there something this big with fangs this big? And I'm like, is there a spider in here that's like fucking feeding off me? I shouldn't say that. They know better. 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 Anyway, oh my brain. But also like I know that there's something so I just feel like Earth is just such a magical place, but there's also the universe is so massive, and Earth is like, even though it's an Earth school and it's highly respected and everybody wants to come here and live here and all that, it's like it's also, you know, for people like myself, and if you found yourself here, you're probably most likely like me too, that have lived so many lives, not just on this planet, but like on, so many different things. And it's bizarre. It's just really, it's like this survival thing. I mean, that's what trauma bonding is. It's survival. And I think that it's almost like that. Like we're all here. We're all orphans, right? And we're all here. We all, even though our mother and father created us or whatever, or a sperm and an egg, were created and gestated and all that. It's like incubated. It's like, it's still, we're all separate. And so we all come here with our own plan, our own purpose, our own. But unfortunately, it's been a slave planet for so many years, that it's not even like the programming. It's like, it just runs so fucking deep. It's in the blood and bone. Some people really believe this is assimilation, and none of that happened. Like we're programmed, like we're just programmed to believe that there was a Jesus, and programmed to believe that there was an Egypt, and programmed to believe, you know what I mean, Indiana Jones, you know what I mean, whatever. But like a mass consciousness, right? But none of it's really happening. It's like the Matrix, like we're laying in some pod somewhere, right? Like in space, like, but co-creating this really cool external world. But something in my core tells me that it's not true. Um, I believe that it's really happened over those years, human years, which are probably a blink of an eye, right? Like when I think of myself as 52 going on 53, it goes, your family tells you that, but it's really true. It goes by so fast. Like I remember my mom saying to me, I was talking about something recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, my mom used to say, like, it goes by in a blink of an eye. You really don't realize it until you get older. Um, And then when I realized the conversation, I was like, oh yeah, I was 36. Or I said something like, not a few years ago, but I was like, oh, it wasn't that long ago. Or I said it was like 5 years ago or 10 years ago or something. And then all of a sudden I go, wait a second. I'm like, I'm 52. I think I was 36. I'm like, holy shit. And just in that second, I was like, she's right. It goes by so fast. So, you know, it makes me sad sometimes that a lot of my friends and family and myself, but more them than me, because I really, the whole thing was like, oh, Kelly just goes to the beat of her own drum. That's just the way she is, blah, 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 blah. Like growing up, like old me, before I named myself Tallulah. And I kept Kelly as my last name, but as my surname, because that fits for me, warrior. But it just, these moments of like these people that we were, and having that cellular memory. I mean, I can feel it. I can feel it when I do things that I never studied, but I am like really proficient at it, and it's like not hard for me. Especially things like dance, like ballet. I love to watch ballet, and I am very good at mimicking people, but like it's just sometimes I talk about this all the time because it's really real for me. But sometimes when I'm dancing, I mean, it's just the way I move. I'm like, it just, I can tell it's not mine. Like, it's not this lifetime. So I danced in some way or in another dimension, in a more modern, whatever. Um, and that's what it probably is too, because if it's true that we're broken up into dimensions, then maybe it's just like cellular, right? So it's just like we're one core person, like, Sybil. If you don't know Sybil, research it. She had 26 different personalities because she had really horrible, she was abused. It was based on a true story, on a case study of this doctor who worked on this young girl. She was one of the first true schizophrenics that they ever met. Well, she was a woman, but she had a lot of young girls that lived inside of her, and it was just so amazing. Sally Field, she did such a good job. And so did the lady who played her mom. She was creepy as fuck. Oh my God. Ugh. I mean, just some of those scenes when she's a little girl, the things she's doing to her, you're just like, what fucking parent could possibly like torment their child like that and torture their child like that? Like, it's like so beyond sick, but that's when you realize that I think those are the people that are so detached from humanity that, it's like you wouldn't be that way if you weren't abused yourself. And so I had this moment with my husband earlier today where it was like 1 minute we were having this really dreamy, magical day, that I have to preface by saying, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or anything, this is just my life and my experience, and he knows that. But a few days ago, we got together to go and look at a place together. It was like it was a new job trade at this magical farm. It didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be, but oh my gosh, you guys, the money was good. It was gorgeous. I mean, seriously, it was one of those farms that you're like, who the fuck lives like this? Like, but they do. And it was magical. And they had 4 horses, this gorgeous dog, a cat, 2 rabbits, chickens. It was just like a super cute farm. And oh my gosh, for a second I forgot Baba was in here, and I was like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, it's Teacher. Chi-Chi, you want to say hi? Let's see if she'll... Baba, you want to say hi? There she is. Chi-Chi. But anyway, it wasn't meant to be. I'm trying to give her space. It wasn't meant to be, and that's okay. But it was gorgeous, like crazy beautiful lavender. Like, I don't even know how many acres it was, but just really cool. And the view was unbelievable. Like, I can only imagine what the sunsets are probably just like magical. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, A-frame. And it was raised. It was like off, like on top of the garage. So it was even like higher up. Oh my God. I mean, it was awesome. And it was, yeah, anyway, I can't. I'm like, I can't. We were like a hair away. But, they're really strictly against cannabis. And I told her I use it in my medicine practice and stuff, and she was like, I'm sorry, blah blah blah, and I was like, wow, that sucks, but it's okay because I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm gonna tell the truth. But they were really great people, and she said if she hears anything, she'll let me know. And you know what? Honestly, I feel like there's cannabis people and there's non-cannabis people. So I'm like we got along and things were fine, but that probably means there would be other things that we probably wouldn't mesh on very well in my experience. Anyway, people who are that adamant against it, there's usually something to it, where they went through something or they're an ex-addict or, and so like everything like cuz she said it was a drug. I'm like it's not a drug, it's a plant medicine. And she's like, it was like her opinion, my opinion. I was like, okay, well, whatever. And I'm like, well, either way, it doesn't matter. We're not gonna get it, right? And she's like, no. I'm like, because of that, right? And so I was like, okay, bye. But and I was kind of frustrated because I'm like, you should put that in your ad. And because that's what it was. She said, I said we don't drink or do drugs, blah blah blah. And she's like, oh, that's awesome. And she goes, you said you don't do drugs. I go, it's not a drug. And it's like it frustrates me to no end. I mean, people pop pills and they like make excuses for this or that, and I'm like, you can call it anything you want, but it is not a fucking drug. So, anyway, I digress. But what I noticed with Alder and I is this trauma bonding. It's like sometimes I'm his best friend, and like he just like loves me to death, and then other times it's like I don't know if just my mirror is just so big or what the story is, but he just like I just it's like if I talk to him, it's like, It's like I'm like, do you even want to be here? I'm like, are we, and that's really hard for me because usually, especially when we're in nature, we're like, oh, let's go here, and we're like little kids and we love it, and we have this really cool bond with nature. That's like one of the things that how we fell so deeply in love with each other. We love taking adventures, we love being in nature, and we were so connected that way. But I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, I cannot pretend like that's okay. I'm like, I'm done with that. I'm like, I've been done with that energy for a really long time, but I've been allowing it because I'm like, well, he's just working through things, and I'm like, don't take it personally. And it was good because it's a good lesson for me too, right? Don't take it personally. Don't be emotional. Blah, blah, all these things. And then recently, we had this really horrible thing happen with our old landlord who we've been trying so hard to stay friends with them, but it's just been like too hard. Sorry, is that a mosquito? It's just been too difficult. And then I started to realize, like, why is that going south now? Like, what is happening with that? I thought we were gonna be friends, but I realized again, trauma bonding. When we met him 2 years ago, he had just lost his wife. That was 2 years ago already, you guys. And he had just lost his wife. We had just lost our home. Trauma bonding. And during that time, a lot of crazy fucked up shit happened, but we kept allowing because we're like, he just lost his wife of 52 years. As old as I've been alive, he was with her. So I can only imagine. And so we just kept making allowances and forgiveness and being like, that's okay, that's okay, that's what he's going through. I'm like, I know he's a light worker. I know he's very angelic. I can feel his energy. But also an extreme narcissist, and I don't even think he realizes that he's become that way from trauma. And I believe that's what builds narcissists. I don't believe children come out of the womb, evil. Although I have met people, mothers, who have told me, they're like, no, my child was evil when they came out of the womb. And I was like, fuck. So maybe, but I don't. When I see the real true goodness in someone and I can tell it's absolutely real, that's the real person. If the darkness and the shadow is what's leading the way, that's ego. That's protection. That's I don't want to get hurt again. That's trauma. So I feel like right now we're going to be working with a lot of different things. It's, this kind of started because I was making some shorts for the Magical Medium, And, I've done some readings recently with the Dark Mirror deck, and, you know, I'm like, this is the Lionsgate portal. I'm like, I'm supposed to be having the best day of my life, you know? So getting back to a few days ago, Alder, I don't know if you guys know or not. Some of you know, some of you don't, but like we decided to, I got the download from Spirit like a few months ago that it was self-care summer. To just, I'm sorry, I feel like there's like a mosquito or something trying to bite me. I'm like, I'm not trying to be paranoid, but you can't really see in here. And that's what sucks with them. You can't see them or hear them. It's like they're stealthy. And it's like before you know it, it's over. And I'm that kind of person when I get bit, it's like I get welts. You know what I mean? Like it's like because I'm so sensitive. And so anyway, I don't mean to be all fidgety and weird. I'm like, I don't like that feeling. I don't like bugs. I mean, I deal with it, it's a human thing. I deal with it, but I don't like it. So keep them away. Well, I was thinking, you know what? I might put my hood up too. That might help. I can handle the ones like in different, like, I just don't want them anywhere near my face or like, my head. That's not comfortable, you know? So anyway, it's been a really long fucking day, and um, I did the pick reading yesterday, but I think in total that was about 6 hours, and I had a great time, but I was exhausted. I mean, these energies that these are the energies that I'm channeling. I'm sure you guys can feel it if you're feeling, if you felt the energy of the portal today, but. It's been open since July 26th and it's open till the 12th, but the 8th is like the pivotal day. It's like the day. It's like the full moon of the cycle. You know what I mean? It's like it's at its peak, and so a few days ago, Alder and I had this really great conversation. A conversation I've been trying to have for a really long time, and it went so beautifully and better than I could have ever hoped for. And I felt like we kind of were starting on a new foot because a few months ago when we had self-care summer, when Spirit gave me self-care summer, I told him that I felt like I need a lot of time alone. And at first he was just like, taking, a day here and there. And then I was like, I just like exploded. And I was like, I know, I need time. So then we started just having like, 3 or 4 days apart, then 5 days apart. And then we could barely be in each other's presence. And before I knew it, we were like spending like really long chunks of time, apart. I mean, not too long because I need stuff and he has to, help me. But we're like, we didn't talk though. Like we didn't. And then when we did see each other, it was like we would talk a little, but not too much. Because I'd say like, do you want to talk about stuff? And he'd be like, no, I'm not ready or whatever. I'm like, okay. So we respected each other's space. But what was really difficult for me was this day was so important to me, and I've been like literally like excited about this day for a really long time. So 2 days ago, when I saw him and we had this really beautiful conversation, and had this great moment. It was the first time in a long time that I felt hope, like that he and I really could start somewhere brand new without going back to the trauma bonding and these patterns that we were going through, because that's what I realized. These patterns, they're trauma bonding. And it's just like trauma bonding here, trauma bonding there. And we're having trauma bonds with our parents, with our everything. You know what I mean? It's like there's so much trauma bonding. It's unbelievable. Instead of having like happy, joyful bonding, we're having this like kind of hardcore harsh, the bad stuff bonding. And at the time it feels good, but all it's doing is re-triggering certain things, because if we haven't healed that thing in ourselves and that other person hasn't healed that thing in themselves, and then you keep going back, or one has healed it and the other one hasn't, not good. And so that's what we've been doing. It's like we just keep missing each other, and I'm just like, what is happening? So a few days ago, or I'd asked him, I think like a week or two ago, I said, do you want to do something together on the new moon? And we did, but it ended up not good. It didn't end well, or it wasn't the way I thought it was going to go, I should say. And then I had said to them, do you want to, we had talked about the Lionsgate portal, and I said, do you want to do anything for the Lionsgate portal? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I can't really commit to anything right now, because they had a lot of jobs up in the air. And I was like, that's fine. And then so 2 days ago I said, do you want to, I'm like, I definitely am going to do something. I'm like, so if you want to do something, I'm like, I want to go like in the mountains, like into nature. I said, if not, then I think I'm gonna go live with the tribe. Because you guys know I've done that before. And he was like, no, I can commit to that. He's like, no, I want to do that. And I'm like, okay. So we did today, and I ended up making this big beautiful breakfast. We started the day like healthy, and it was really really good. We went to this place that we've never been, which is kind of rare for us up here. We've like really hiked so much and done so much around here, but there was this place we've always wanted to go, and it was closed off for a really long time, and finally they opened it, and so we're like, let's go check that out, and we went, and it was really good at first until he got a message like, well, oh, and let me back up and say, I said, I'm not even gonna bring my phone. I'm like, I'm literally gonna leave my phone at home. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna turn my phone off too. I'm like, oh, cool. Because I was gonna ask him to, but I was like, I don't know if I should ask him to, you know, I mean, we're kind of in this place like where we're taking a break or whatever. And so when he said that he was going to, he volunteered, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So when we got to the top of we got to the mountain, and we parked and we're getting everything ready to, you know, head on down and hike to the falls. I saw him on his phone, and he was like, oh, hey, you know, because, you know, he's a medicine man. He's like, hey, you know, my one client, you know, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you know, his friend, he's, you know, from Sweden or something. And he's like, he's leaving tomorrow, and he wanted to know if we can get together tonight and blah, 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 blah. And all this stuff. And I was like, oh, because we just kind of started our day, but usually when we go till it's almost sundown. So I was like, oh, okay, so what does that mean, you know? And he was just really evasive, and he wasn't like communicating, and I just felt really really irritated. I felt really frustrated because I was like, he knows how important this day is to me. I'm like, and one of the main things in our one of the like contingencies that has been, or not contingencies, one of the I guess thorn in our relationship has been that I tend to be at the end of something, like meaning like if it's about work or me, he'll choose work. And his thing is always like, well, we need money, we need money, we need money. I'm like, no, we need to be together. We need to spend more time together. I'm like, you have to invest as much time in our relationship as you do with work. And and then when we are together, sometimes it just feels like he doesn't want to be there. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, you don't have to be here. I'm like, no one is like tying you here. I said, I literally stopped talking to my friends and family because I got tired of feeling like I was always somebody's, uh, or she's so annoying, and I'm like, you know what? Then you don't have to fucking talk to me. I'm like, I'm done. I'm sorry, I'm getting hot now. I'm like, I'm done dealing with that kind of crap. I'm like, I don't need that, right? Because I'm an advocate for love, right? And this is who I am. I didn't know I was going to do this, but all of a sudden I just got really hot. But I was like so frustrated. I'm going to move this back over here. I was so frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I'm like, that's so not cool, dude. Like, I was really, really upset. Because I felt like all of a sudden I felt like it was like the sand in the hourglass. Like okay, so what does that mean? I have an hour, 2 hours, you know, and I kept asking him. I'm like, and he's like, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay. And I'm like, well, it's not though, because I don't want to keep hiking and then we have to like haul ass back or like, you know. So it was just really not what I thought it was going to be. And then it was like he was trying to make it better, but it just wasn't. And we got this campsite, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go pick them up and bring them back to the campsite. And he's like, you know, we'll hang out here tonight. He's like, that'll be perfect, and blah blah blah. Like, and it was almost like our day and everything just like evaporated. Like, like I was like, what just happened? I'm like, literally, I'm like, what just happened? So, long story short, it wasn't good. We fought, and I cried very, 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 very hard. And I just told him, I was like, I can't keep doing this with you. I'm like, I want to make our marriage work. I'm like, I love you, but um, I'm like, I feel like I'm this old version. Like, it's like he keeps treating me like I used to be instead of treating me who I am now. It's like really frustrating, you know? Um, it was just that kind of cry where that cry for help, like I was saying at the beginning, where I just felt like I don't, even though I have the tools for this, it doesn't matter, because no matter what I say or what I do, they're still going to respond the way they're going to respond. They're still going to, you know what I mean? It's like trauma bonding. That's the thing with trauma bonding, right? It's like how how they are going through their thing and how I am going through my thing are very different, because they were different experiences, even though we both, had very similar trauma. They were different things, and we are different people. So it was pretty rough. And then we came back here, and I felt like we had a good aha moment. But we'll see, because sometimes I feel like we have these breakthroughs and then it goes back. And I can't, sorry, I just ate a little while ago. And I can't, not I can't, I don't really like using that word anymore. My mind and my body and my soul doesn't respond to that anymore. And I really had that aha moment where I said, I'm not talking to the woman who gave birth to me for less than this. I'm like, you may be my partner and my husband. I'm like, but I literally stopped talking to all of my friends and my family for the way you treat me. And I said, why in the world would I want that in my everyday life, in my house? And I said, I allowed that because that's all I knew. I thought that's what love was. And I said to him, I go, some time ago, a random stranger on one of my videos, a man, and he was really handsome. I went and looked at I was curious, so I went and looked at his page, and he was like this really cool spiritual dude. And he was just like, what a beautiful soul you are. What a beautiful woman you are. Your husband's a very lucky man. I hope he knows how lucky he is, or something like that. And I thought, that's sad. And I said that to him. I felt more from a random stranger than you give me. And I said, but that's not how he always is. There's this really beautiful side to him that's like, hey, baby. And it's like so cute and loving. And he's just so sweet and supportive and helpful and like wants to be present. But there is just this darkness in him that's been, with him for so long. And I said, you've been with that shadow for so long that you don't know how to live without it. And I said, I realized that all the shadows that had shrouded myself with weren't mine. They were remnants of other people's shadows that were like built into this one shadow that I identified with mine. But then I started to realize, and when I started to connect more with my angelic like soul, like of where I come from, I realized, I'm like, no, I was just picking up the pieces of the darkness. It's my job to stop the ancestral trauma in my family. So I've just been collecting all of this. And I said to him today in like kind of hysterics, crying, like where it just like really hit me. And I said, I don't feel, I'm trying to remember how I said it. Just basically that I don't feel like that part of me. Like I don't, it's like, how do I put it into words? It's really hard to explain. And I wish I could remember exactly what I said to him, because it was like I kind of remembered and then it like left, and maybe because it's like spirit's like that's private between us or something. But basically it was just this moment that I realized how much I loved myself. And I was like, I love myself too much to be in this relationship where I look like I'm glowing. I'm like where I feel like shit. I'm like, I'm such a, oh, that's what it was. I said, I'm such a happy, joyful person. And I was saying that through tears. And I said, the fact that all I wanted was to have this day of joy, and I go, and you managed to suck it out of me. And now I know we have free will, right? But that's what I'm saying. It was like, but I was like with him off somewhere. It's not like I can be like, can you please leave? It was like I had to deal with him and deal with his like stuff. And then like trying to tell him how I was really feeling. And then he was going back to the victim stuff, and it was just, it was too much. I was like, I can't. I'm like, I can't. And I know the divine masculine is like really going through a rough time. That's why I've given so many grievances and allowances for it. But I was like, I'm like, I go, I have been telling everybody for weeks, like, stay in a high vibration, stay in a high vibration. I'm like, the 888 portal. I'm like, just, do something fun, do something in nature, be happy, blah, blah, blah. And within, 2 or 3 hours of us being together, I'm like hysterically crying. And I was like, this is not the way I saw this day going. However, when we did get back here and we talked more, it was interesting because I was like, well, isn't that funny? Because I didn't think that was good, but it actually was, because he had a major breakthrough. And it was not that I want to watch someone cry or get sad, but it's like it makes me feel relieved that I know that he's there, but I said, I think when we have these separations like this, and, because now we've been doing this for like a month. I think it's been about a month where we've only seen each other maybe like once or twice a week over the last like month or so. I think it started before the 4th of July. I think he left like the last week in June. So I guess it's been more than that. Yeah. But just, it just, there's something about that where when he's alone, it just intensifies his narcissism, intensifies his shadow. It's this like, because you can rationalize anything with yourself. Because there was a moment today where I was crying and he just like walked right past me and he was like, just kept doing something. And I'm like really sad crying, not like I'm like, that's okay, crying. I was like, like begging, like pleading, like, I'm like, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Do you hear that I'm telling you I'm going to move out? Are you hearing that I'm telling you I'm going to leave you? I'm like, do you hear me? And then I said in that same breath, I go, that's the last time we broke up, was before we got married, before we were betrothed. And he had his accident and all that. And I said, another trauma bonding. He had his accident and I took care of him like Florence Nightingale, and then, he was out of the hospital barely 2 months, and we were like going to get married. And it was like, and I do look like that because I'm just like, we were so not ready for that. And that's why I'm like, it's okay. Like, if that's what was meant to be, then that's what was meant to be. Like, I'm seriously okay with everything. I don't want to keep going over the same things over and over and over and over. I made this video the other night about, going through like old pain and suffering with like my ex and things like that. And I don't know if that'll ever see the light of day. I felt like it was just something I had to do for myself. But I just started to really understand, and seeing the connection today, and last time when I left him is when, well, it's not his accident. He tried to kill himself. He'll tell you. And it's interesting because the whole time we were together, anytime I would talk about killing myself, I'm like, haven't you ever wanted to kill yourself? He's like, no. I'm like, never. He's like, no. And then I remember we got in a fight one time, and I was like, well, of course you didn't. I'm like, you're a fucking narcissist. I'm like, you're too in love with yourself. I know. I'm like, but you're not in love with yourself. I'm like, you're in love with your ego. You're not in love with your soul. You're in love with your third dimensional fucking, persona that you've created. I'm like, but that's not the same thing as, your soul. And that's what we're realizing with the narcissism, is like, it's not, it's in like the reality of things, it's not realistic. It's, narcissism isn't a viable, it's not the answer. It's it's a condition. So then we had kind of like this breakthrough moment, and it was good, and I feel better. It ended, better. I ended up having, a really nice night and made myself a nice dinner and sat with spirit and lit some candles, and it was nice. And I'm ending it with you guys, but there's definitely more that we have to go through and work through. But I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do or what's gonna happen. I really don't. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful. That's my triple Sag. Like we're such the optimist. So it's like I'm always hopeful. I'm not gonna walk away until I know it's really done. But I've had to ask the really hard questions. So you need to ask yourself the really hard questions. What are your relationships based on? Start looking at every single relationship in your life. And that's what I've been doing too. Even with I'm like, I said it. Oh, I think it's just a little fairy. Okay. I'm like, ah. Guess what I'm saying? I'm like, if you see them, you're like, ah. And they know I'm like, I don't kill anything unless I have to. And I've told the mosquitoes, I'm like, I understand your purpose. I'm like, but if you're in my house, I'm like, you're dead. I'm sorry. I'm like, that's your own thing. um, Especially if they load up on my blood and then I kill them. I'm like, I guess that was nothing. She was supposed to feed her babies. I'm like, now the babies are gonna die. Although I don't know, do other mosquitoes help each other? Anyway, mosquitoes have been coming up so much because we've had more mosquitoes now than we've ever had, and it's like, yeah, because the planet's warming up and things are warming up. There was an ice age for a reason. You don't want shit coming back to life. Certain things, you don't want things coming back to life, or you don't want they're not meant to. Well, if they're meant to resurface, they're meant to resurface. You know what I mean? But yeah, but that's what I mean. This whole thing's like a movie. People don't realize that we are co-creating. So there's some interesting things out there. Also, can I tell you guys? I saw something really interesting on one of my posts. Something from a long time ago came into my orbit, and I was like, oh, I don't remember there being that many comments on that. And I click on it, and there's this comment from this person, and it was like, thank you so much. This was really insightful. I appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. And gave me a heart or whatever. And I had thanked them, whatever. I went and looked on their page because for some reason I was drawn to, and they're like a full-blown Trumper. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand. I'm like, you're watching this reading and you're saying that, and then you're over here making fun of Kamala. I was like, oh my gosh, like it was so weird. It was so fucking weird. I was like, but that just goes to show you, it's like even somebody who's like, oh, I'm spiritual, but like, I'm like, all right, okay. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I mean, I send him love, and I know he has a purpose and everything, but not as the president. He had his go around. He proved, you can buy an election, but you can buy one election, but you're not going to buy another one. Or those were probably a lot of like, who knows the underhanding deals. Oh, for those of you who know me, I worked in politics off and on for like 6 years, and I just seen things and watched deals happen that I was like, oh my gosh, like, so who knows? Who knows? But I'll tell you what, I love the joy that's coming from the Democratic Party. It's not that I belong to one party or the other, but, we've got to start somewhere. I think eventually we won't have party systems like that anymore, but you got to start somewhere. And we may even have something where people can have, I think people should have longer than 8-year terms. If you get elected, you get elected. Before I could see why they did that because people were doing it. It was like money and it was like they're buying their way in and doing wheel and deal under the table and that. But like, if it was like a real true democracy, it's like, why wouldn't we want to keep someone in there that's like really awesome and like knows what they're doing? It's like the more they do their job, the better they get, right? But also sometimes if you're at a job too long, you get complacent. So, you know, anyway, so that was it. I almost was going to do a shorts on this and it turned into an hour. My last one was almost 2 hours and I'm like, that's obnoxious. So any of you got through that, I wasn't even going to post it. And then they really were adamant about me posting it today. And I was like, I did that like, I think I might have done it at the beginning of the Lionsgate portal and I may not have realized it. I don't even know. I haven't watched it back, but anyway, it's really, really late here. I think it's like 1 in the morning or something. And it's been a really long day because I got up at exactly 8 a.m. and went to bed late last night. And I did all the readings yesterday for the picker readings for the Lionsgate portal. And anyway, but hit me up if you want to do any one-on-one sessions. Yeah. I don't know if my email's on here, but go to the Magical Medium. It's got all my stuff on there. It's just magicalmedium@gmail.com, but it's magic with a K the old way. And it's interesting because I made my email address themagicalmedium@gmail.com. And then for some reason, I kept having problems with it. And then I couldn't remember my password. And then it locked me out. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I accidentally deleted it when I didn't mean to. It's a long story. So that's why I had to recreate it and have it be Magical Medium. And I've been thinking about changing it to just Magical Medium. But I like the Magical Medium. It makes more sense. It's like when I'm a medium, I'm the magical medium, right? When I'm here, I'm just Buddha. This is my life. Oh, all right. Well, I hope this helped you guys in any way. And, I'll keep you updated on my story. I always thought of us as being the greatest love story of all time kind of thing. But after what happened with J-Lo, poor thing, I actually do feel bad for her because that's really tough. That's really tough to put yourself, to be that vulnerable and put yourself out there and then have like, so much rejection and so much, people are so mean right now. It's like really mean. I'm like, you know what? And she's a Leo and Leos are, they're like, want to put it all out there. I think he's a Leo too. And I'm like, that's a bad fucking combo because two Leos together. And obviously you're going to have different things in your signs and stuff, but that's a lot of big energy in one relationship. I'm a triple Sag and my moon's in Scorpio and my third deacon is Leo. So, or I should say I'm in the third deacon, which is Leo of Sag. So I definitely feel that. I think that's what helps me do this kind of stuff, and be out there at the Leo. It's like, but yeah, I kind of feel bad for her, like watching, I not feel bad for her, you know what I mean? Like, just because she's just doing her thing and she's trying to be herself and I think, I don't know. I don't want to really get into the whole story. I don't really care that much, but I'm like, it's not my circus, it's not my monkeys, as an old friend of mine used to say. But there's definitely something with that, with, and now with the twin flames, and everybody's like, oh, they're my twin flame, oh, they're my, and it's like, I don't know. I don't really know. I think that, but then sometimes I'm like, I don't know. It makes sense, that we'd have that, but so we'll see. We'll see if Alder and I can work our way through this. If, feel free to send us some positive energy and some healing energy. If it's meant to work out, it will. There are days where I'm like, I can't even imagine my world without him. Like, literally, like, I'm like, if I'm not with him, I don't even know who I'd be with, kind of thing, And then there are other days where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, it must be over, I just know that the life that I had with him is over. And those arguments and those patterns and like, that's for me, I'm like, that I'm done. Like, that's over. I'm like, I'm done with that. I said we were at the, in the woods today, and I was playing in the river, and these birds were coming through, and he's like, look at the dragonfly. A butterfly landed on him. I'm like, dude, come on. The butterfly came and danced with me, and then she danced over to him, and then she landed. He goes, oh. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Change and transformation, brother. It's like, so I think I feel like he's at the end of the dark night of the soul. And I feel like I kind of went through that already. So I'm hopeful that he's going to like come out the other side, the happy, joyful Alder that I know and love. Um, but he could just be entering the dark night of the soul. And if that's the case, like I cannot linger anymore for that. Like I can't, sorry, that was my hand. Um, I'm, and that's not like me being like, oh, when people are like, oh, if you love someone, you stand by them. I'm like, yes, but you don't like, who wants to be in an energy where you're like, do you want to do this? Yeah. Are you okay? Yeah. And I'm like, hey, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And my energy's like that. And he's like, what? I'm like, no. I'm like, there's only so much I can take, especially as a sensitive and an empath. I'm like, it just starts, I'm a sponge. You can see how much oil I have in my hair. When I started this out, my hair was curly. Damn it. I swear, it's like I can't keep up with my hair. I can't keep washing it and whatever because I said today, I can't keep up with it. I'm like, because I wear so much oils all the time. I'm like, and I'm always touching my hair and I try not to. And I don't know if it's a nervous tick or something. Also, I've been thinking about cutting my hair off. I don't know. I'm bored. I don't know what I want to do. I kind of want to color my hair. I kind of want to cut it off. I'm feeling a change, but I don't know what I want to change, on the outwardly. But inside, I'm changing very rapidly. And I felt like that's what it felt like. I felt like the butterfly was dancing with me, like, hey. I will say this, the one really cool thing I did get to do today is that it's like you drive up to the mountain, but then you have to hike down to the river. And so when we got to this, we were at the top, but you had to kind of like go this way and this way before you would descend. And he had just been there, and I said, "Oh, is that a trail?" He's like, "Oh no," he's like, "It's like kind of the edge of the." He's like, "Be careful." And he's like, even I got a little butterflies for a second when I looked over. I was like, "Oh shit, that's really fucking high. Like if I fall right now, I'm in trouble." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll be careful." And so I just kind of went to this one spot and I stood there and I was at the end. It was like the mountains and then this and Ra was like shining on me and I just was like, blessed 888 portal. And I was like, I was like, kind of happy new year, to the universe. And it was a really, really cool moment. So I did get to do that and I got to put my feet in the river. The waterfall was not much to speak of, which you couldn't really get to it. It was like on the other side of the river. It was really cool, but we had a really dry year, so it was like it was a waterfall, but nothing compared to the waterfalls we have around here really. It was the river was more impressive, and that little like watering hole we went to was so cute. And yeah, but I would have liked to have gone back down and kept hiking down the river. It was really, really magical. The furry fuzzy trees, it was like the edge of the rainforest, and so I was like, oh, I really wanted to be there more. And I said it to him. Oh, so then this was the kicker. So when we got back here and we were talking, I kind of stated my case, and I'm like, you can kind of see where I'd be a little upset and a little disgruntled. And he's like, no, I do. I'm like, you do understand, right? Like, I'm like, I know I'm not crazy. And he's like, no, you're right, you're right. And then I said, do you need to check in with them, whatever? And he's like, yeah, I probably should. And he checks in with them, and they change their mind. And I guess the guy was like, no, it's like made him too overwhelmed to get everything together to go camping and then go, because we thought, oh, wouldn't that be a great way to leave, this area as to camp in this magical spot. But anyway, they ended up not doing it anyway. I go, so we literally lost our whole day for nothing. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, so the cool thing was that they at least recognized it. And so if they didn't recognize it at all, I would have been a lot more upset. But they recognized it. And so, like I said, I'm hopeful. But, all I can do is be hopeful and keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. And that's all we can do is keep moving forward. And recognize where the traumas are, where the triggers are, so that we can work through them, not avoid them, and not carry them with us every moment, you know? After he left, you know, I could have gone into some sad, dark place, but instead I was just like, no, I'm going to carry on with this night. I'm going to have a good time. I'm happy. I'm a joyful person. You know, I'm like, I'm going to stay in that because I choose to stay in that. Because that's what I said to him. I'm like, he's like, this is just the way I am. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I said, you're choosing to stay in the shadow. There's a huge difference, you know? It's like you hear these stories and I said something about that to him too. I said I didn't go through all of this trauma that we just spoke about. I said I didn't go through all that trauma. I didn't go through all those things with those people for me to continue living like that. I said now that I've recognized what it is and what, you know. So, you know, I'm not here to throw him under the bus or talk out of school. I just feel like we all need to really have these tough conversations right now. You know, my whole life I've wanted to have these conversations, and with my family I'd be like, let's talk about this. Nobody wanted to talk about it, and I was like, okay. But for me in my personal life, I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to keep working through these things so that I don't get triggered anymore, and so that I don't feel, you know, the need to bond with people over a trauma. If anything, now, when I meet somebody new and we have something similar like that, I either don't share it at all, or when I share it and they're like, well, you understand, I'm like, yeah, it took me a long time to work through that. I'm like, you'll get through it, you know? It's like instead of this, oh yeah, I under, because that's what people want. They want this. They want to play the victim. They want the sympathy and the empathy. And we can be compassionate and have empathy and have sympathy. But you know, if that's your whole existence is playing the victim, that doesn't work. That doesn't fly. You know, at least not with me. I'm like, I'm a fucking warrior, man. And I didn't fight through all that to bring joy back into my heart. And I said that to him. I said, do you know how hard I have to work to stay this joyful? I said, you think I don't have my stuff? I'm like, we've both had horrible, horrible things happen to us or happen for us, however you want to look at it. I said, but that's not the way I want to keep leading my life, you know? There's so many things I want to do. And I have so much fun playing with music and acting and, you know, singing and just like being in general. Like I'm just I'm like I said that to him. I go, I realize I'm like I'm genuinely a happy person, especially when I'm creating. And right now in real time, you know, like I said, well, now it's 8, 9. I just realized the clock. I'm like, oh, it's definitely like, you know, after the 88 Porto, but it's still there, you know, it just was at the pinnacle. Um, but you know, during this energy, especially with the Leo energy, and then the Leo moon will still continue after we go into Virgo, you know, work with that. Take that trauma and turn it into something beautiful. Create something from it. I pray that he and I make our way back to each other. I pray, and this isn't, you know, like above or whatever. It's just there's some things he's more ahead in his healing than I am, you know? That's why, oh, it was really cute. We did have one really cute moment right before he left where I had said something like, you know, at one point I really thought we were an unbreakable, you know, bond. Like I'm like I thought we were going to be like this super couple, like this superpower spiritual couple, you know. You as your medicine as a medicine man and me as a medicine woman and everything that we both had ever wanted. And then we talked about other things and then it was cute cuz a little while later he goes, "We really would be a really," or he said something like, "We are magic together," or something like that. He's like, "We really are powerful and magical together, aren't we?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "When we're both in light, you know." I'm like, "But this yin and yang of me and light and you and shadow and me constant." I'm like, "I'm fucking tired." I'm like, "I can't." I'm like, "It's time for me to hustle and make money and do the things that I need to do so I can help people." That's what I want to do. And like, I was really bummed that we didn't get that job at that farm, because it was one of the first jobs in all the work trades we've done over almost a decade. It was like one of the first ones that I was like, this feels balanced. I'm like, this is a really nice house. Like, this is it was really great. Basically, in the end, we would have had to work like 4 hours a day every day, but he and I were like, well, we can like do that. We're like, we both get days off. We can switch that up. We've done so much together that we were like, we're a good team that way. So we were like, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. And in the end, I think for the house and being on the grounds and everything, and the owners she's like, oh, we're only here like 5 days a month or something. I'm like, what? You know? Uh, um, it was, I think, $200. So like, I mean, we could have saved so much money. It would have been so amazing, but it just wasn't meant to be. But I said to him, I go, either that means that we're not ready for that yet, or that like we're done with that. And Spirit's like, you got better things to do. Not better things to do, but you got different things to do. Like him as a medicine man and me as a medicine woman, but also as musicians. He's been revamping his guitar, and I've been, playing the piano. And actually I haven't played in a few weeks. It was like I played a lot, and then all of a sudden I just kind of like pulled back. But I got really into the spirit work again, and I knew that was going to happen before the Lionsgate portal. I don't know if they're going to have me pull back or have me amp it up. I don't know. I'll let you. I mean, obviously you guys will know as I know, but I do. I am noticing that things are shifting though. I'm bringing more things back over to the magical medium, and I feel like Lula's life is going to be more or less than this. Maybe I'll still do this stuff, but I feel like it's going to be more of like the fun, creative stuff for me. And, just bringing magic to the world. Anyway, I'm rambling. It's late, and you guys get the point, and I will keep you updated because thank you for being invested in my life, and I love you, and I'm invested in yours too. We're all connected. So I hope this helped you in any way on your journey, and I'll see you next time. Take good care of yourselves and each other, okay? Self-care summer is still going on, even for our Southern Hemisphere family. I know you're winter, but it's self-care, self-care, self-care. So I'm going to keep promoting that as much as I possibly can. And the more time you spend alone, see, like, that's what he and I are doing. It's like the more we spend time alone, the more we're like, no, this is what I want. No, this is what I want. This is what I won't put up with anymore, and this is what I won't put up with anymore. Like, we both have to be on the same common ground, because if you're not, then you're better off being alone. There's nothing wrong with being alone. I've spent many, many, many years alone. And the years that I spent alone are the years that I was the most productive, and I got the most done, and I really, really got the most in touch with myself. So I'll leave you with that. I'll see you next time. Bye. Love you. Oop.